Hey there folks, Meteorologist Hunter McCullough here for Northern News Now Plus and another episode of Beyond the Forecast. For this episode, we're going to take off our Midwest hats, put on our East Coast hats, and talk about typical low pressure track systems here as we go into our eastern portions of the United States. And we're going to talk a little bit about what bombogenesis is, what a bomb cyclone is. So without further ado, take a look. Hey there folks, Meteorologist Hunter McCullough here for Northern News Now. We're going to be talking on today's episode of Beyond the Forecast about a term that you've probably heard before. It doesn't necessarily impact the Northland, but it can definitely at times. It more so impacts folks out on the East Coast, to where we have these typical low pressure system tracks, such as a Colorado low that brings us lots of snow, a Panhandle low, an Alberta clipper. These are typical low pressure tracks in our region that we have to be concerned about when it comes to snowfall and any kind of wintry precipitation. Well, on the East Coast, you've probably heard of the term nor'easter, and it's a typical low pressure track that moves across the East Coast and can bring them quite a bit of snow. And usually this kind of setup happens. In fact, we are seeing this setup as we go into the end of January of 2026, but the timestamp doesn't really matter. This is the setup that we need in order for this to happen. And what's going on here is we've got this ridge building. This is the warmer air that we've been talking about that's going to be moving into the region as we go into early February. But we have also this dip in the jet stream going all the way down into the far lower portions of the United States, far southeastern United States, down towards Florida. It's going to be really cold there for this time of year. It's going to be below freezing in Florida in some spots, which is very cold for those folks. Meanwhile, this is bringing that Arctic air that we've been seeing from up into Canada all the way down into this portion of the United States. Over in the Atlantic Ocean, we still have some much warmer air in those portions of the ocean, and so that cold air clashing with that warm air forms this area of low pressure and can really rapidly intensify in what's called a bomb cyclone that you might have heard of. So two terms that we're going to be talking about today: nor'easter and bomb cyclone, bombogenesis. What this is, again, this is an area of low pressure that forms down into the southeastern portions of the United States and can travel up along the East Coast and bring several states along the East Coast a lot of wintry weather here. It can also cause flooding. It can bring a lot of rain, possibly in the summer, but it's most common in the winter with the large clash of temperatures with the warm waters of the ocean and the cold waters inland of the continental polar mass up into northern Minnesota, even up into Canada, and pushing that air down into southern portions where it typically does not exist. So this can lead to what I mentioned, some rapid development of low pressure, which is called bombogenesis. Now, it's always interesting, sometimes in the media with meteorology, the media picks up on certain terms every once in a while and just runs with it, and then, nobody really knows what the term is, but it sounds really scary. Bombogenesis is one of those terms, a bomb cyclone. What's a bomb cyclone? Another one was polar vortex many years ago when that was first introduced into the mass media. And again, people are like, oh my gosh, the polar vortex is coming down to get us. It's a little, it can be scary, of course, but it's a lot less complicated than what the media might be portraying it as when it comes to weather-related items. And so what we're going to talk about here is bombogenesis, a bomb cyclone. It is a very strong area of low pressure, and it can bring quite a bit of snow. It can bring a lot of precipitation. It can bring very strong winds. But bombogenesis, a bomb cyclone, you have usually off the coast of the eastern portion of the United States. But it can happen anywhere. It can happen inland. It's happened here in our region where you have this rapid development. But you really need a very sharp difference between cold air and warm air. And this happens quite a bit along the East Coast because you have the warm air of the ocean, the cold air inland, and usually in the winter. Like I said, it can happen any time of the year, but this usually happens in the winter. Well, that causes this area of low pressure to rapidly intensify and create this huge gradient of temperature and pressure, causes very strong winds, and it feeds off of that cold air moving into it, combining with that warm air, that sharp difference. That's what this feeds off of, is the sharp difference between the cold and the warm air, and can produce feet of snow sometimes up along the east coast of the United States. So what defines a bomb cyclone? In our region, it can change depending on where the latitude is, but in our region it is defined as a central pressure dropping 24 millibars or more within 24 hours. So on average, about 1 millibar per hour that this drops. Remember, millibars, just a measure of pressure that we use in meteorology. If you remember, there's different levels of the atmosphere. You got your 500 millibars. At the surface, we're usually around 1,000 millibars, or a little bit more, a little bit less, depending on what the pressure is doing that day. But again, if you see the pressure dropping more than 24 millibars within 24 hours, it's called bombogenesis, which is kind of a take on a combination of bomb cyclone and cyclogenesis. Cyclogenesis is when you have an area of low pressure form. So bombogenesis can happen anytime, but most likely from October to March, like I said, in the winter, and can result in very heavy precipitation, produce winds in excess of 70 miles per hour. So very windy conditions, heavy snow, heavy rain possible in these systems, and that's what they're going to be seeing as we go into this weekend, the last weekend of January 2026 along the East Coast. That's why I brought this up, is that those folks are going to be seeing a nor'easter, bombogenesis, a bomb cyclone rolling through, and could bring quite a bit of snow in some portions that don't necessarily see snow all the time. So there you go. That's a little talk here about a nor'easter, a very typical low-pressure track in the winter for the eastern United States, and bombogenesis, a term you've probably heard before, bomb cyclone, a little deep dive into what all of that means. In the meantime, have a great day.